Huge thanks for you joining me this morning. The purpose of this video, this interaction with Alan Frost, is to give you an insight about moving from a part-time investor to a full-time investor. And through speaking to Luke Hamill, who's a co-host of the Central London Property Network, he keeps going on about it becoming a much more professional, really changing because of tax changes and so forth. What's your experience, Alan? So let's give the listeners a little bit of insight into your journey. So you started investing
just under 3 years ago.
Okay.
Before that I was a freelance sports journalist. I also had a spell work at Ipsos Mori, and then I decided to make the jump into property.
So we're looking at about 2013 when you became a part-time investor?
Yeah, well, really sort of jumped in with both feet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so maybe did a little bit backwards. Looking back, maybe I could have eased into property a little bit more. But yeah, so I started Simplify Property, then did my training, and then started taking action.
So you were you working at the same time as you were investing, or?
There was a little bit of an overlap, but I think I quickly became aware that, especially looking at sort of trying to do flips and direct-to-vendor deals, it can really place a great emphasis on your time if you're going to do it full-time. If you're going to do it part-time, then maybe you need to look at more the sort of long-term investment side of things, where if an opportunity comes, it's not crucial if you're not able to do a viewing straight there, or not able to take a call straight there, and then you can combine maybe the day job with that. Because I was looking for flips, the agent phoned me and said, this is something you should look at. The fact that I could go and be there in sort of like half an hour meant I was able to sort of be a lot more decisive. And then
Does a lot of it depend on a team though as well? I find it interesting to see who forms part of a team. So I noticed Nicholas Marshall's got an event coming up. I look at all events, to be fair. It's not just my own events. I know Nicholas has got some speakers who've come together. I have to admit, I didn't realise they've come together. It's quite interesting, but possibly one of the reasons why they came together is about time and making time efficient. So did you look at creating joint ventures, or do you look at adding people to a team, or where do you go into that particular?
Well, so I started off pretty much on my own, and I have to admit my mind wasn't necessarily open to JVing with people, certainly in the first instance.
And I'm sure that's the same case, not just with yourself, but with lots of other people. To think, it's quite a lot of money. We don't really know these people, and some people may think JVing is the only way to go, and property may be put off. But you've achieved it without necessarily JVing, particularly in the early days.
Yeah, certainly. I think what you said there is completely correct. Especially if you're starting out and you've got no experience, or if you partner up with people who also haven't got experience, maybe there's a bit of an issue there. If you partner up with someone who has got experience, do you feel that you're contributing to that partnership or that relationship? I started and fortunately was able to get my first one underway without needing any JV partners or investors. I've subsequently used investors for sort of a minority funding of a project, but certainly as I look...
But it helps that you've already got the track record in place.
Yeah, and I can understand that it's a bit of a catch-22. You can't, if you don't feel that you can work with people until you've got experience, but you can't get going because you haven't got enough resources, be it time, money, or connections. You're sort of like stuck in a bit of a rut there. But like I say, I want to do bigger opportunities, bigger deals now, bigger developments, and it's I'm aware first of all there's going to be a knowledge issue. I haven't done massive blocks of flats or anything. You could obviously do it, learn, make mistakes on the job and whatnot, but it's a lot more efficient to partner up with someone who has got that experience, and also I'm now realising what I can bring
Let's just give the listeners a clue, an idea about what type of property you've been investing in, particularly in the early days. Mostly, from what I understand, in South London, Croydon catchment area, or Sutton? Sutton.
More Sutton based. I mean, I looked at Sutton Croydon, and if opportunity comes more direct to vendor, then I'm happy to go that way. But in terms of, in the early days, I was looking with estate agents, try and do viewings and spend most of your time driving, really.
Okay, so, and the type of the properties were mostly just 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom type properties, or was it a bit different to that?
A little bit smaller to
Okay.
start off with. I was looking at 2-bedroom flats and maisonettes, maybe small houses, just because I just wanted to get that first one off the ground, really.
So you built a relationship up with the estate agency who was based, if I remember rightly, in Sutton.
Yeah.
And I think you said on the previous interview we did, you had 5 viewings on the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the keys is about how you built that relationship with the estate agent. There's lots of people who go into an estate agency, and I had a similar interview with Carl Hutchings about how you build a relationship up with the estate agency. So how did that estate agency remember you? What was special about it? What did you put into a relationship for him to, or her to, contact you, give you 5 different leads and so forth?
So in the first instance, I mean, the estate agency was a 3-minute walk from my house. And I didn't think necessarily they would be the type of estate agency that I'd be working with. It's like bigger family homes generally. So I went in there thinking, well, I haven't got anything to lose if I make a right mess of this. Then, I won't have lost out, because there's plenty of other agents that may be more suited to what I'm actually looking for. So I think going in there not with expectations, not going in there, I find just generally whether it's looking for opportunities, if it's looking for investors, if you go in there with too much of a hard sell, if you go in there expecting too much, then people can just lean back and sort of, not too sure. Whereas I wanted to find out a bit more about the area, make sure that my own research was tallying up with what the agent was experiencing. And then we just did a load of viewings, and by a load, I mean, in the early days, my strategy was a little bit, not so well formed, and also I wanted to build up a relationship, so I was just looking at anything.
So just to give the listeners a clue, so you said lots of viewings. I know you did 5 in one day, but in total over a month, or?
So probably between October and January, and January is when I saw the property that...
January 2015?
Yes, 2015. Yep. That was when I saw the property that I then ended up buying. I probably looked at about 45 properties. Now they were literally all around my house, so it wasn't like I was travelling a lot of distance.
Sure.
And I think one of the key things was to get a block of viewings. If you could get 4, 5, 6, then inevitably the agent would say, do you want to pop in my car? And then that's when a relationship builds, because we're chatting about stuff that's not necessarily about, right, what's this property, what's the situation, we're talking about family, finding out what we do in our spare time and whatnot. And I think that makes you a bit more memorable. And then sort of added on to that, because I was looking at stuff that wasn't really a good opportunity for a flip. A lot of places were perfectly fine to live in and whatnot. My offers were correspondingly very low. And the agent said, well, I look forward to receiving your low offer on this property. So we built up a bit of a camaraderie there, but I think it's getting time to sort of connect on a more overreaching kind of feel, rather than just talking straight business.
So have I got it right? It's more about buy to hold rather than flip, or particularly in the early days?
In the early days, I was pretty much just looking at anything. So while my intention long term is to hold on to property, certainly to get started, to turn my money over a little bit quicker and build up that both my sort of money part, but also establish a business that, because in effect, flipping property it's not long-term property investment, obviously. So
Although there are some notable people who've done it for quite a sizable period of time, that like to pull ribbons, for example.
yeah, certainly there's plenty of money to be made. But yeah, to go back to what I was looking at, you know, I was also thinking, well, you know, maybe there's an opportunity to do a direct-to-vendor deal here through the agent, you know, if we build up a relationship. But I think, sort of looking back, yeah, you know, I'm probably a lot more efficient in my viewings now, but you don't want to be too clinical. You don't want to be, oh, that person who just comes in, he makes his notes, and then 2 days later he phones in an offer, we reject it, and that's the end of the relationship. You want to sort of build up a bit of a personal connection.
What are the key metrics you have as well, Alan?
In terms of
viewings, is there particular things you're looking for? Is it just literally what the margin is? Is it a distance from a station? And does it, I presume it also, you know, may depend on what type of strategy you're following for that particular property as well?
Yeah, so certainly in the early days, and still now to a certain extent, although we're looking at bigger stuff, we need, you know, I want to, if I'm looking at on Rightmove, I'm looking for something that needs a new bathroom and a new kitchen as standard, and since the 3% stamp duty surcharge, pretty much I'm looking for stuff that isn't, you see, needs updating and modernising. I want the ones where they don't even want to put the pictures up on Rightmove because it's in such a state. I almost want, you know, there isn't a kitchen to talk of, let alone, you know, it needs updating, because I want the kind of properties that people go, you know what, we don't want to move in and have this work going on around us. We don't want to move in and put up with it until, you know, a couple of years down the line when we can then put in a nice new kitchen. So I'm really looking for stuff that's just, you know, borderline should be in an auction, perhaps. And then
do you look at auctions as well? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we look at auctions. We're increasingly looking at auctions because I think just the way that the market is at the moment, certainly sort of in Sutton and some of the surrounding areas, it's a little bit inside out. I was speaking with an agent yesterday, and he said, I've got no problem selling, you know, big 4, 5, 6 bedroom houses at 700,000, however, an affordable home for 300, 350. That market seems to have dried up. I think there's lots of things to consider there. So it makes you maybe a little bit wary of sort of what was an easy flip 3-6 months ago. Maybe that's not going to be so easy. I mean, we're getting up to Christmas, so the market slows down anyway.
Well, when you say flip or trade as well, so do you normally go back to the same estate agent as you bought from, or different?
We have in the past gone with the same agent that we bought from, but on a property that we sold at the beginning of November, beginning of this month, we had an experience with the agent that we bought from and then back on with. We had an experience that was, you know, okay, as much as building up relationship is important, they did such a bad job that it, you know, it not only sounds the relationship, but it started to cost from a business point of view.
Sure.
And also
because it was quite interesting when I spoke to Carl. So I've done a number of these Facebook Live interviews. And one thing I haven't quite said, and Alan is presenting for me coming up on the 8th of December. That's a morning meet. That's my last meet of the year. Central London morning property meet. It's easy to get to. It's literally yards away from Piccadilly Circus / Leicester Square, Grosvenor Casino. Tickets are just £20. It's an amazing network, and I'm sure it's going to be a really busy morning, partly because it's my last meet of the year, partly because there's also the valuable content both Alan will be sharing, and also the likes of Rob Lee, who's going to be focused on new social media methods for marketing. But going back, sorry, so we were talking about the property, the estate agents and your experience, and I just was relaying about Carl saying one of the things which he learned was, or the benefits of flipping with the same estate agency as the relationship. It doesn't always work as you say.
No, it doesn't always work, but I think, going back to how do you build up that relationship in the first place. And, agents, God bless them, they've been known to tell a porky or two, and if you haven't built up that relationship where they'll be more honest with you, then maybe that sows a few seeds that are going to sort of disrupt the relationship later on. Equally, I don't want to apportion blame. No doubt there are certain things that I could have done, and maybe.
Do you think it was one of the more valuable learning experiences?
Yeah. So in essence, what happened was we bought the property. We'd done the work really quickly, and we wanted to put it on the market and sell as quickly as possible. So, middle of the week, we said to the agent, right, we're ready to put it on. Let's talk about some timetable. And they said, okay, we'll book the photographer in. They'll come, maybe the end of this week, probably beginning of next week. We'll get the photos on Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll have a couple of weekends build up, and then an open house, an open day. The photographer didn't come until the back end of the following week. They didn't upload the photos until the end of the following week, so then it ended up that we only had sort of about 9 days of it on Rightmove before the open house. When they put it on Rightmove, they put the wrong floor plan, the wrong room dimensions. They uploaded the new photos, which there was a few issues in that it didn't cover some parts of the house. So maybe that could have maybe it would have been a bit misleading. Perhaps people would have gone, didn't have a picture of the third bedroom, for example. So it would have been like, okay, how big is that third bedroom? Other people might have just gone, oh, is this only a 2-bed? But not only did there was an issue with those photos, but they also uploaded somehow the photos from
the previous.
Yeah. So, and it wasn't a tactic. It wasn't like this is before and this is after.
Yeah.
It was just a mismatch. And looking back, I should have been a lot more patient and said, okay, let's get the photos and let's see the sort of the proof of what you're going to put in Rightmove and the brochure and whatnot before deciding an open day. But having had such a great experience previously when I bought and sold through the same agent.
Oh, so you've bought and sold previously with them as well?
Yeah, so it was like, okay, to be honest, how hard is it to market a good-looking house properly?
What would your one takeaway be from that learning experience?
To be a little more patient, if when it comes to marketing. I mean, to be fair to them, they found a buyer at the price that we wanted, but ultimately that fell through, and that would be another maybe issue I'd have with the agent. But in terms of the marketing, you think, well, we want to get it on by the end of the month. If it's a week later, is it really going to make that much difference? I mean, obviously, you don't want to be talking about putting it on at Christmas.
Sure.
But if we're sort of talking about like February, March time, would it have mattered if it was the last weekend of February, or if we would have just waited to see exactly what they produced and then gone, okay, these are things that need changing before going live? It might have just done a little bit better. So
that's one of the valuable lessons of 2017. I don't want to go through too much of your presentation, and this is just a short synopsis with Alan. What other takeaways from 2017 would you say you've had?
2016.
2016.
Maybe to just drive. What I started to do is just ask, a little bit in my calculations, just drive for a bit of a bigger margin. Just because, like I say, that property we had to sell sort of in the end 4 times. So yeah, maybe just drive a little bit more of a margin. Also, I think just understanding the potential for JVs. We've now got a builder on board who's happy to JV on opportunities.
Yeah, that's what I think it was interesting, because you mentioned you managed to get the work done quite quickly, so that would give the inclination or idea that you built a team up who are reliable and so forth. And you've just mentioned a key interesting thing about JVing with Builder.
Yeah, so we've had several semi-formal meetings. Again, it's don't want to, if you're looking for good relationships, I think it's not just about business. It's about getting to know the person, but it's also if you're going to work with someone, you don't want to be every time you have a conversation it's about business, because naturally business brings up frictions or challenges or whatnot. You want to business is a part of it, but you also just want to be on good terms, be friends with people. The Builder, he actually had worked with a previous developer, JVing with them, and that developer's retired, so he's looking for someone new. And then also looking at bigger opportunities. I think just realising that there's plenty of people out there who are happy to work with you, even if you haven't got the experience of that kind of project. If you can bring an opportunity to the table, don't be greedy on what you're going to ask for. If you're just telling someone about a property on Rightmove, you can't expect a 50% profit share at the end of it. But there are plenty of people that are happy to work with you, and I think that's the way to really accelerate your journey.
Sure. So, as I say, that's coming up on the 8th of December. It's a morning meet. We'll be going through Alan's journey about the transition, sourcing. You mentioned about direct to vendor as well as estate agents. I just want to have a look at the funding aspect as well. So, has that been a struggle this year? You've mentioned JVs as well. Where do you see the funding situation going into 2017 as well?
Well, personally, the beginning 6 months of the year, I was like, I need to get more investors, I need to get more money, you hear that you always run out of money first. But then I was speaking to someone and they told me about a book called The One Thing. And
I've heard of The One Thing.
Yeah, I've not read it yet. It's on my it's on my shelf on my to read list. But it's about the way this person explained it was, in essence, every business is constrained by one thing above all else. And I've actually found it quite relatively easy to get investors on board on all different levels. From people who've got £5,000 to people that can potentially go into 7 figures. Now again, I think because I've understood that I need to build up that relationship first. If someone says, I've got £100,000 to invest, you don't want to rush into something. Maybe you need to build up that relationship a little bit slower. Start off with a little bit smaller amount to build up sort of that working relationship. And I think because I've been...
So what would be the steps? So let's say someone says, I've got 1 million to invest. How would you approach it then? What would be your key shares? You said focus on small amounts first, so you build up that track record.
If someone says I've got £1 million, it's very easy to go, it's brilliant, I can do so much with £1 million. But I think you really want to understand what their motivation is for investing. So, some people might be, I've got £1 million and I've got £10 million and this is £1 million, I'm happy to sort of have a little bit of a gamble with. Other people might be, I've scrubbed really hard for this money. So when it comes to lending to you, they're going to be a lot more demanding in terms of getting feedback, getting updates. And you just want to understand how they view the relationship. Because you want to keep your investors informed and whatnot, but some are happy just for, in 6 months, let me know how it's going. Other people want a weekly update. And you want to meet their expectations, so you want to find those out in advance. I think starting off smaller also means that people if someone comes to you and says, I've got £1 million, you say, that's great, we can do something with that, but how about we just start a little bit smaller? It's like, okay, maybe this person isn't just hearing the figure, they're actually a bit more savvy, perhaps a bit more experienced they're not so urgent for the money. Now, you might have a few meetings with the person, and then a great opportunity comes. You go, well, I know we talked about a smaller amount, but there's potential to go bigger. These things happen, and if you don't ask, you don't get. But it's you've got to look at it. That £1 million. Would you rather have that £1 million once, or would you start off with £100,000 and then it would build up to £1 million on deal 2 and deal 3 and deal 4, and that funds you for the next 5 years or even longer?
Sure. So, what would be some of the takeaways from hearing you present on the 8th? We'll be looking at sourcing as one thing. What other things will you be sharing with the listeners?
So we'll be talking about how to go into full-time property investment and development.
You mentioned development as well, so is it something you're looking at right? And I don't want to delay you. This video could easily be an hour or two, not the half hour. So literally, this is going to be the last couple of questions, and then I'll let the listeners shoot off to wherever you have to go, and Alan as well. But fascinating, you mentioned the D word, development. Yeah.
So yeah, people think of developments and they think of 500 homes or something. We'll be covering how to make that step, maybe from flipping one unit to doing a couple, doing 4, doing 6. We'll talk more about investors, how I go finding investors. Also, that wraps in nicely with the sourcing, the approach to sourcing that I have as well. So we'll be talking about that. And really, if you're going to go into property full time, it's not all about looking at Rightmove and doing viewings. That's and talking to vendors. That's obviously a very important part. But there's only so many viewings you can go on that are worth going on. There's only so many vendors that you're going to be put in contact with, or meet. Certainly, when you're making that transition from part to full time. It's a little bit different when you've been running 5 years and the leads are coming in each and every day. So we're going to be talking about what other things you can look at to sort of increase your network, your contacts, and sort of get those leads and get those investors without necessarily having to put too much money into it.
Okay. So as I say, I don't want to take up Alan's time anymore, or your time. As I say, I'm planning on doing more of these Facebook Live interviews. So huge thanks for you joining us today. A huge thanks to you as well, Alan.
Thank you, Brendan. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.